Previously on the live stream. Hello everyone, how are you doing? So let's see what everyone's saying on the internet. My good friend Nick says that my audio sync on Twitch is a bit off. I guess here's a question for you, for you all. Which is coming first, the audio or the video? Which direction do I need to fix it? Brett, he says that he thinks the audio is coming first. So let's see, there is a sync offset. Let's move it to like 300 milliseconds. Let's see what that does. All right, so now I've moved my audio 300 milliseconds forward. You can tell me if it's worse or better. 1, 2, 3. I love that we're doing just like a slate test live here. Oh, my friend Brett says it's way better. So I went in the right direction, clearly. Thank you, Damien, for letting me know it's better. Thank you, John Cumming, Brightshine, Scott Slaughterbeck. So maybe 300 milliseconds was it. Thank you for helping me live here correct a problem. This is a fun use case for a mixer. I love that this mixer is a monitor, that you don't need to buy a monitor. Like right now I can tell from this preview shot, like, oh, this thing is way too bright. But it's cool that I can preview it before I go full screen with it. Hey, I think we have a special guest coming into the studio.
With all of the people.
Well, all the people are right here. Do you see all these comments? These are the people watching us on Twitch. Here, why don't you go to shot number 2 for us. Move the T-bar. Yeah. That's the overhead shot. Now switch to shot number 4. Can you push 4?
Wait.
Yeah, that one. You're so good at your numbers. And pull that T-bar. What is that?
Fox.
It's Fox.
What's it?
You can do 3. Yep. That's this handheld camera I have right here. Hi everyone. Thanks for joining me on the live stream today. Already got lots of comments on YouTube, and let's see if we got any people on Twitch watching today. Let's see. Rhett Thompson, thank you for joining me today. He says, hey, I made it. Gonna have to start bribing Griffin to make sure he does this more often. Well, hopefully you enjoyed today's live stream. There's a few things I want to do today. One is I want to test out this my audio. Can you hear me now? Oh, the audio cut when I switched cameras. Well, that's not great. I'm learning something new every time we do this. Thank you for helping me workshop this. Let's see. So Rick and Julio said my audio went down. Scott only said, yes, like, yes, it's back when I'm here. Huh. That's weird that it's not in my other thing. Let me, here's what I'll do. I'm going to copy my audio from this scene. Let's see. Copy this audio. And I'm going to paste it into... Yeah, you should be able to hear me here. Let's see. Can you hear me in this shot right now? We got Johnny Boz here on Twitch. Brett is on Facebook. Eric on Twitch says, yes, you can hear me. I don't know why. It really shouldn't have dropped out when I switched to this camera. Now I should switch to all my different scenes and see if they all... here, let's switch to this one. Wow, that's really annoying. That is not supposed to happen. I don't know. I'm not sure why OBS is doing that. I feel like that's OBS causing an error between scenes. The audio should be in all of those places, and it's not. But you could hear the little sound, though. Let's. So the sound worked, just you couldn't hear me. Well, here, I just I just pasted my audio. Let me just paste it. Okay, can you hear me now? You probably can. Let's go to all of these scenes I have and paste my audio in. Okay, I think you can hear me here because it's still showing up on my my little meters there. Let's go to this one. Yeah, this one looks good, I think. Tell me if you can hear me now. I don't know why it was just those two. Pasted. Okay, now this one should be good too. So one by one, I have to go through and correct all these things. See, this is why I'm doing this, to learn exactly what I'm doing wrong in OBS. But hopefully you like all my little graphics I made. And the other thing I have working well today is, let's see, maybe I can bring this up on this computer. I have my Restream chat going where I could see everyone in one feed. I got all my YouTube comments coming in, Twitch comments coming in. Yeah. I wasn't sure last week if I could make this work. I mean, I knew this existed, this product in Restream, the service that I'm using to stream to Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter at the same time. I knew it could bring all these things in. I wasn't sure if it was compatible with like setting up an event in advance, but it seems like it is. So that's good. All right. So the thing we really want to talk about today is this little mixer. And I want to show you some of the things I've discovered with it, some of its capabilities, and then later in the episode, we will, I'll take more of your questions. I want to play a little video that I have of Nick. Nick actually helped me set something up, and we're going to test out I want to test out let's go to it. I want to test out the wireless streaming capability of the GH5 Mark II. It can stream directly to a service like Twitch, I think, or YouTube at least. It could definitely go to an RTMP server. And I've actually set up an RTMP server on my computer so that I can stream it into this broadcast. And so we'll test that out as well today. So as we're going, if you have any questions about this this Feel World mixer, let me know. But I showed this off in the last episode. This thing has a USB port on the side, some audio in and out on the side. It also has a LAN port. You could actually control this thing with some software that you can download, which I haven't needed to do. And also, it can output through USB as a webcam. So this thing can be a webcam. You don't actually need like a cam link, an Elgato cam link to get this into a computer. But I prefer the HDMI setup. And we'll also talk today about why I'm using... Let's see if I can cut to this. Oh, here it is. Oh, wait. Already on this camera. I actually have two cam links here that I'm working with today. And that was something I wanted to test out too. If this computer could handle two, because I know not all computer setups can. And so we'll talk about why this one may be working okay and how I'm able to use both at the same time. Let's see. Let's take a look at this. And one of the things I want to show you real quick, let me see if I can go to this screen. Yeah. Let's see if I can do this live. This mixer can have different outputs over HDMI. This is what I kind of love about it, that you can choose different outputs that can go out over the screen or over HDMI or over USB. They can all be showing a different thing, which I think is kind of interesting. So over HDMI right now, it's showing, and you'll notice this is a touch screen as well. You can also control this with this little controller knob. But I can change this output from program to preview. Let me do that again. I was already on it. Preview. And now I get a feed that is all the cameras at once, which is pretty cool. So you could be going in through USB as a webcam and output the program, and that's what everyone on OBS sees. And then if I wanted, I could hook up this HDMI out to a TV, and you could see this cool feed on a TV. Or you also can change the screen itself. Let's see, where is that? If I remember where it is. Maybe it's not in here. don't remember where it is. All I know is the screen can also be just one camera if you want it to be. Although there's really no point to that. I kind of want to see all the feeds right here. So let me turn that back to just program on HDMI. But I like that you have the flexibility in all three places to do this. And then I want to show you one more thing that's kind of weird about this device that I could have sworn was definitely a malfunction. But I talked to FeelWorld and they were like, no, this is actually how it's supposed to work. So let me go back to just the main screen right now. You notice that the way I'm operating this thing is I'm selecting a camera shot and it's showing it in the preview monitor what I'm about to cut to. And then when I pull the T-bar, it actually goes. And when I do it this way, it's flawless. Like the cuts are perfect cuts. Even when I cut to, let's see, even if I cut to like a weird source like this, this is my MacBook Pro coming out over HDMI. It seems to work just fine, just perfectly. The weird thing though is you don't always, I don't necessarily want to be pushing buttons and then moving the T-bar as fun as like Peter thinks that is. And he may join us later in the broadcast. So there is a mode in the FX menu under mix. Oh wait, I have that wrong. It's under the mode menu. You could change the mode from T-bar to fast, which sounds like exactly what I want. Like, let's eliminate the T-bar. Let's just do this quickly. You can also change the speed, although speed does not go below half a second. And this is where I thought maybe I needed to correct it. And so now I want you to watch and see if you can catch the problem here that happens. So now we don't need the T-bar anymore. In fact, the T-bar doesn't do anything anymore. And now it's just whatever button you push is going to be our camera. So here's camera 2, camera 3, our MacBook. Camera 3, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 3, camera 1, camera 3, camera 1. It is fast, but do you see the problem here? That why this is just like not acceptable for broadcast? I want to see what people in the comments are saying. Let's see. Griffin Harrington is here on Facebook and says, what? This switcher looks sick. I know. So this is, I should tell you like how much this thing costs. And I am reviewing this for FeelWorld. They sent this to me for free. This is they sell this thing for $540, which like all filmmaking equipment is expensive. But for what it gives you, a switcher plus like a webcam output, like so you don't need a cam link necessarily. And the fact that it's just a monitor, like part of me, this is way too expensive for this use case, but part of me just wants to hook this up to like my PlayStation and my Nintendo Switch and anything I have going to my projector so that I actually can have like preview it. Like I can tell like, okay, the PlayStation's on like before my projector's ever on. This would be a stupid over or underuse of this device, but I do think there's something valuable to like being able to see what you're cutting to before you cut to it. Let's see. So yeah, Vettel Egan on YouTube notices the glitches that were happening. Let's see that again. They're only like 1 or 2 frames long. There you go. You can see it maybe. I could see them. I wonder how well they render over the live stream. But yeah, these horrible little flashes, these glitches that happen between frames. And so surely I thought I have the settings all wrong. Let me just contact FeelWorld. But when I talked to them, they were like, no, that's actually kind of what that's supposed to do in that mode. I guess fast switching is kind of like when you plug something into HDMI, you know, like, or when you switch inputs on your TV, it's not a clean click from one to the next. And so let me go back into T-bar mode. I'm guessing that the way this thing works is pretty bad at navigating this menu. If I change the mode from fast to T-bar, I'm guessing that the way this thing works is that when you load... Oh. I did that thing that I was trying to do earlier that I couldn't even find in the menus. I've managed to change my monitor to just the main feed. Let me see if I can figure out how to go back and do that. How did I do it? Maybe it was on input. Nope. And it's funny because all of you were watching and probably saw it happen and were like, well, I know exactly where that is. Now I don't know where it is. Was it in mode? No, it wasn't in mode. Let's see. It's not an input. It's not. Oh, it is. It is in HDMI. Under HDMI, there's the output and there's LCD. Yeah, you can change LCD to preview. There you go. Okay, so we're back to all of our cameras here. And am I back in the right mode? I am discovering I probably like controlling this thing more with the dial than the touchscreen. The touchscreen, my fingers seem to be too big, or it's tiny things to touch. Okay, so we're back into T-bar mode. And when I'm in T-bar mode, it loads your shot into the preview. And it seems like actually it is kind of glitchy when it loads into preview, but then once it's loaded, it's a perfectly clean cut every time. So I guess that's just the way this thing is designed. So you pretty much do have to be using the T-bar to get a clean output for broadcast. I suppose if this was not for broadcast, if this was just, or you were cutting like in OBS, maybe you just need to get the feed sending the right signal to OBS before you actually switch scenes. I suppose if you were doing something like that, this would work just fine for that use. Rick Morris says it needs time-based correction and sync. I can't tell if you're talking about my feed or if you're talking about the problem with the L2 Plus. Nick Henderson points out it almost looks like it cuts to white. Yeah. So when I freeze framed, I did a recording on these glitches. They were kind of almost like field glitches. It was like half the field would be filled with like gray or something, or a previous shot. It was like mixing in a weird way. And so at first I thought, well, maybe some of my cameras are outputting like interlaced and other cameras are outputting progressive. And let me make sure there's not some weird mixture thing happening. But actually every camera is sending out the same 1080p 30 frame per second signal, I believe. And so it's definitely not that's the issue. It is the way that the device is, the way it operates. Let's see what other comments we have here. Old Gymnast on YouTube asks about the picture-in-picture. So yeah, there's in the FX menu, there's a place for picture-in-picture. Let's see what we can do. I'm already doing a picture-in-picture in OBS, so it'll be funny to do a picture-in-picture in here. All right, I've clicked on something. Let's see what it does now. I also can't figure out the cleanest way to get out of the menu. It's like sometimes the menu button does it. Oh, okay, so I've added, by adding, I can like add a shot to another shot in the preview window here. And then when I cut, oh, it's hidden behind my little thing, but here I can hide myself for a second, I think. Yeah. So yeah, just a basic picture-in-picture effect can be achieved in this thing itself, which would be really fun if you just want to plug this thing into Zoom and do a Zoom call, and you don't want to have to build all these special effects in OBS, which is what I've done. If you just want this thing to be a webcam and go right into Zoom or right into OBS and not have to add anything on top of it, you could do some picture-in-picture effects built in. Let's see. Although now that I'm in picture-in-picture mode is confusing because like I barely know what I'm touching here. Let's turn that off. Let's see what other special effects this thing has. Well, let's look at the basic mixes. So, well, let's see now that I'm, yeah. Oh, and I can mix while I'm in the menu, I guess. Or wait, can I? Yeah. So we have cut, fade, and then all these, like, let's do a wipe here. I'll show you the fade in a second. They look good too. I've never tried the wipes. Oop. Oh, and I bet it goes with the speed of the T-bar. Yeah. Interesting. That's kind of fun. Although I got this question on YouTube the other day, like, do you use dissolves or cuts? And it's like, I just like cuts all the time in my work. I cannot actually imagine using this effect. I'm also realizing if I'm going to have this shot over here, this camera I actually I'm outputting my all my info display. I should at least point it at something interesting instead of just having it hang out in the corner by itself. Okay. It's our weird, like, microphone angle. Okay, so there's that. I could actually imagine many people using the fade. So let's do that. Am I already in it? Can I just fade now? Yeah. Okay, so I don't even have to leave this menu to play around with these. What's this one? Like a zoom in? Or it's like a wipe from the center, yeah. All right, this is more fun than I thought it would be. And let's see. We have a comment from Bjarn Yakis on, I hope I pronounced that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. On YouTube, a Blackmagic ATEM Mini seems to have more functionality and is only $295. Oh, well, that's interesting. Pretty cheap. I'm guessing the Blackmagic ATEM Mini does not have built-in monitors, though. So tell me if that's the case. Ethan Thompson is wondering, do they sell their gear on AliExpress as well? I don't know. I bought this. They encouraged me to buy this on Amazon. This is actually something some companies have done before when they ask me to review something. I think they know it's just easier for Amazon to fulfill it, especially in the United States, if they're a Chinese company. So rather than like shipping it to me from China, they're like, can you just buy it and then we'll just reimburse you? And it's like, yeah, fine. So that's how I got it. Yeah, Clay Bittner on YouTube says, you're correct. No built-in monitor for the ATEMs. But I'm sure it's more powerful. I've only heard great things about the Blackmagic products. But that's good to know. If you just need an out-of-the-box thing with monitors built in, this is an interesting product. It also has a fan inside, which you probably can't hear because I turned it down to level 1. It's a little bit warm, but I think it's doing just fine. Let's see what other effects we have here. We got some wipes. What is this one? Just lines? Let's see what lines does. Oh, it's just like doors opening. Sometimes it says, sometimes if you don't pull the T-bar down all the way, I got a little error on it that said T-bar not finished. Okay. Let's see what other effects there are. Oh, this one looks dumb. It's like mini barn doors or shutters. I don't know what you would call that. What's this one? Ooh, a circle. That's like that's like Star Wars wipe. That's kind of fun. But yeah, I just imagine I would be using a fade and a cut 100% of the time. Probably cuts 95% of the time, and maybe I would use a fade sometimes. But wait, we should be back on cut now. Let's see. Why is it not? Still not on cut. Still fading. Let's see why. I think maybe it just didn't take. Let's see. There you go. So this seems to be the mode for me. I guess I wish that I could do that fast mode because I would just like the fast switching a lot. But this is how I had it set up for the last feed. And it works to just cut with the T-bar. Just back and forth like this. And I guess if you only had 2 cameras, then you're not even having to do the button mashing. Just use the T-bar. All right, so let's see what comments I missed. I'm not seeing many comments on Twitch. Let's see. That's just because they were all at the beginning. And there are more of you on YouTube. Let's see. How many people? Looks like we got about 30 people watching on YouTube. There's always lots of comments on YouTube. Oh, and so Vettel Egan wants to know about the build quality of this device. I mean, it feels pretty solid. I guess this is plastic. I don't know. It has kind of like a hard, it feels like it's metal, but it's, I don't know, maybe it's a plastic case. It feels pretty substantial. The interface is obviously not the most advanced looking interface, and it seems like it takes a moment for it to load up. It also has Chroma Key, which I am not sure how you would control it on here. That seems like it'd be crazy complicated. Let's turn it on. But then, like, how do you pick a color on a little interface like this? I can choose green, but like the buttons are green, but they're probably not the right green. I mean, you really have to mess around with all the settings here. And I cannot imagine I would be able to do that well on this device. There is software that you can control this thing. So I'm guessing maybe Chroma Key is one of the things that you would actually want to control on the computer side and tell this thing what to do. I can't imagine I would ever use this for Chroma Key. Interesting that it's built in. And then what is PTZ? Oh, this is like an IP camera, which I don't have any IP cameras. And I don't think in a little bit, I'll show you how I can use the GH5 Mark II to live stream into this stream. But that's using an RTMP server, which I think has got to be a different protocol than IP cameras. But I have seen people who have studios with IP cameras set up, and I guess you could send it into this device. Let's see. I guess Casa de los Perros Studio has the L1 of this device. I have not experienced any of the other products that Feel World makes. And says that the L1 runs hot, but that a laptop cooler takes care of it nicely. Yeah, this one seems to dissipate heat pretty well. My friend Matt, who runs the YouTube channel Red Boy Vlogcast, says, "So cool, just wish I needed it," versus wanting it. Yeah. Well, and this is part of why I'm doing this live stream, is like, without a live stream, I do not need a mixer. There is no reason for me to have a mixer, but I have the cameras. I have enough cameras to plug into a device like this. And if I am on having some fun with, oh, now I'm in like Chroma Key mode or something. Like now none of my buttons are doing anything. Let's see. Maybe I need to turn off Chroma Key. Well, let's see. Chroma Key's off. What mode have I put it in? Am I like in IP camera mode? I don't know what I've done. Let's see. No. Okay, now I'm back to normal, I think. No, I'm not. I can't tell what mode I'm in. I'm only like switching between these two cameras. All right. Well, I've messed it all up. Let's see. These are my two shots. They're cutting back and forth just fine. How can I replace that shot? Oh, there we go. Well, now it's the same shot. No, I think I am doing some weird special effect thing. I just can't tell which thing. How do I turn it off? Let's make sure I'm just on regular cut. I'm in regular mode, in T-bar mode. What other weird thing do I have turned on? Let's make sure picture-in-picture's off. Oh, maybe my picture-in-picture was not off. And go back. Let's make sure the IP camera thing is turned off. I don't think you can turn it on. There's an enable, which is set to off. And Chroma Key, oh, is turned on. I thought it said off a second ago. Okay. Yeah, it's not the most intuitive interface. Now, granted, I haven't spent a lot of time in the menus because, well, every time I go in, it's just to like turn on the T-bar or not. Let's see. Now we have the same thing previewing. Okay, now that works. Now this works. Okay, that's the mode I need. That's all I needed to do. Cool. Let's see. Nipau Tarzolny 2 says that the PTZ is for remote control CCTV movable cameras. So yeah, maybe you can actually control the movement on here. Yeah, that's what old Gymnast says. Pan, tilt, zoom. Oh, that's what PTZ is. Thank you for the acronym education. PTZ for pan, tilt, zoom. Eric on Twitch says that he never knew that the Feel World even made this device. Only knew of their camera monitors. And Matt Shivers on Facebook is hoping that my son Peter shows up and helps me. He is napping right now, but he may join us in a bit. We'll see. Let's see. We got a question from Simon Larson on YouTube. Does it decode all inputs separately, or do you have a master frame rate across all sources? I think in the settings, you can control what its output is. Let's see. I think that's in HDMI. So it says my format is 1080 30p. So maybe I don't know if I can send like 4K signals to this thing. I mean, we could try it real quick. Let's just change like my upper camera, this one right here. I'll reach up, or rather, let's do it on the camera that you can actually see the settings on. Let's see, it's this one. So this one, let's go into the menu. Yeah, you should be able to see the menu here. And go to our HDMI output. There it is. So right now this is a 4K camera shooting in 4K 30 mode, but I have it down converting to 1080p. And let's see what happens. It's definitely going to cut off when I do this. But let's change it to 4K 30. There it goes. Will it come back? Let me switch away from it. You can see it's still just gone. It's possible that this device just doesn't accept a 4K signal. Now let me send it a 1080i signal and see what happens. It shows up. And switching to it is just fine. Although I feel like I can see, I could see the interlacing. So I'm assuming it's outputting it as a progressive signal, even though it's an interlaced source. Let's see if there was choices about that here. The format choices are, well, and I'm wary to change this live, but I mean, it'll let me do 1080 60 output. It has a few different resolutions, like 1280 by 720, but it looks like it'll go up to 60 frame rate. I'm guessing this is all in progressive. I don't see anything about interlacing. And I'm staying on 1080 30 here. Okay. So yeah, now we know it doesn't take 4K signals, which I wouldn't want for this, you know, for live streaming anyway. But it's cool. I do like about the GH5 cameras that I can shoot in 4K. I'm actually recording on this camera right here in 4K, but it's outputting a 1080 signal to the switcher. So leave that camera in that mode. Oh yeah, even Eric on Twitch could see the interlacing happening on that camera. And yeah, Iragram3 points out, I don't really think it matters much to have 4K during live streams. Yeah, I mean, not now. So I still want to do some live streaming directly from the GH5 Mark II, which we'll do in a few minutes. But first, as long as you're all here, active in the comments, let's play this little... we'll do a trivia game that I have here. I guess I'll go back to this screen. So I'm gonna... I came up with a few questions. Maybe you'll learn something today if you haven't heard some of these terms before. I was on a set recently shooting something, and one of my coworkers used a term that I had never heard before, because really I don't have experience on big film sets working with electricians and, you know, all the different people. I I've generally worked alone as a documentary filmmaker, or I've worked in television, so a lot of my lingo knowledge comes from television. So I'll give you some of that, but also the first question is just the one that I didn't know. So you can just answer these in the comments. There's no prize or anything. I just want to see what you know, and maybe you could teach me something too, like that acronym earlier, PTZ. So the first question I have is the word that I didn't know. On a film set, what is a stinger? My coworker was like, "Grab a stinger for me." And I was like, I don't know what that means. I do have to remember there's a several second delay from me saying these words and you responding. Although we'll see if like Restream is any slower. No, Restream chat is keeping up with Twitch. It looks like Eric Cardzada got it first. Stinger is an extension cord. That's exactly right. Yep. Lots of people saying extension cord. Mark Cordero says, "Isn't that a cocktail?" I mean, it sounds like a great cocktail. Alvar on YouTube says an extension cord might be mainly an American thing, though. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things too. It's just a reminder that not everyone knows these words. So when you're on set, I mean, it can be helpful to use a word like stinger if everyone knows what it means. But just be prepared to deal with people like me who are like, no, I've always called it an extension cord. I suppose stinger is a little bit shorter. All right, our next question. There'll be 8 questions. This is question number 2. What does the acronym SOT, S-O-T, stand for? This is from Television News. And it's one of my favorite acronyms. Eric's got it again. Man, I might have to keep score for him. He's got two of these right. Sound on tape is what SOT stands for. So it's a soundbite. So it's referring to the sound of that interview on tape. And of course, we're not recording the tape anymore, but I still like the acronym SOT just because it's nice and short. So that's what I'll call my file names that when I'm organizing my footage. Quinlan Conroy is wondering if it means sloppy on tap. Not sure what that means. Also, living with MS in Tenerife on YouTube made a really good joke about the last question and said, "Come on, get a grip." If I just had a grip on set working for me, I would know, or he would know, or she would know what a stinger is. I don't need to know what a stinger is. And Eric points out that he pays attention in class because he's got both these right so far. Let's see. Question number 3. What is overcranking? And we'll see if Eric just has the fastest connection speed. He's hearing all the questions first. And now I'm watching to see how quickly comments come in on Restream versus Twitch. All right, I'm getting no. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so they came in right after each other. Eric first, and then Johnny Boz. Eric said, "Isn't that how they shoot slow-mo?" And Johnny says, "Is it increasing the shutter speed?" Those both sound right, and technically they are both right. But overcranking is specifically talking about speeding up the recording speed. Like literally you would take an old film camera and crank it faster to record the frames faster, which actually would speed up the shutter as well. But overcranking means slow motion, which is kind of counterintuitive. It's like faster recording equals slow motion, which yes, it does. There's also undercranking to shoot fast motion, which isn't used nearly as often. Yeah, just increasing the frames per second that you're capturing. Presumably the idea would be you are still presenting these frames 24 per second in the end product, but in the old days, I mean, I feel like they literally had to like control it at generally the right speed. Like this is 24 frames a second. And if you do it a little bit faster now, maybe you're capturing, I don't know what they were capable of going up to, but maybe you're capturing 50 per second. And then you're going to play it back at 24. So that's how you make slow motion. Which I feel like having a 3-year-old was kind of a hard thing to explain to a child about, like, we would record slow motion on the iPhone because it's fun, and then we'd watch it back. But he would want to perform slowly for the camera after watching these things back. And it's like, no, 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 you do it normal. In fact, we should do everything fast. The faster we do it, the more interesting it looks when we slow it down. Tenerife is an island in the Atlantic off the coast of Africa. It belongs to Spain. And Tenerife, maybe, or Tenerife. I'm butchering this pronunciation, I'm sure. That's where Living with MS in Tenerife. That's the meaning of that username. Rhett Thompson points out that undercranking was used a lot in action movies, especially martial arts movies. Yeah, to make it look more intense. You could undercrank to, like, just ever so slightly speed up. You don't want to, like, double the speed because it would look insane and silly. But if you speed it up, it probably doesn't take much. 5-10% makes, a punch look more intense. Draw Blank on Twitch says they did. That's why old films sometimes appear to run faster than real time. Yeah, I always kind of wondered about that. Like, they don't look like they're the correct shutter speed, and maybe it's just they accidentally recorded too slowly and played it back at a slightly different speed. Johnny Boz says, sounds like it sucked back then. Having to manually crank your camera. Everything sucked. You had huge cameras. And, who knows how long between shooting it and actually viewing what you shot. Let's see. Alvar on YouTube wonders, if you built a mad gear ratio system, could you get frame rates higher than some cameras are capable today when you were to crank it by hand? And I'm sure if you cranked it too fast, you would just break the camera. Although, if any of you have had the joy of going to film school and using, like, an old, like, I can't remember what these cameras are called. I used to shoot on, like, these 8mm or 16mm cameras that were like newsreel cameras from, like, World War II era. And they're just built like they're guns. Like, they're just built really strong, and I can't imagine it getting jammed, and it just looks like a real solid piece of machinery. They don't make them like that anymore. And Vettel on YouTube wants to know, do you know what production assistant is called in Norwegian? It's Prodas. That it translates to professional toilet. Oh, that's sad. All right, let's go to question number 4. In television news, this piece of gear is commonly called sticks. Sticks. Yep, Eric's got it again. I think Eric is 4 for 4 here. He says tripods. He came in just before Hank-O-Matic, who said tripod. Everyone's saying tripods. I think Eric just has the fastest connection. He's actually in the other room watching. Let's see. So yeah, sticks is what, I mean, I don't know if, you tell me if people call tripods sticks on set as well. I've always heard it in a news environment. But maybe it's everywhere. Or like people when they're setting up their sticks on the risers at the back of a campaign event or something. And Lesson Hacker has a question about overcranking and undercranking. He says, wouldn't the speed of the film reacting to light be more of a limiting factor than the cranking speed? That's a great point, because the way that those old cameras worked, you would crank them up, and the shutter speed is pretty much attached to the frame rate, because as you turn it, as it turns, it has a rotary shutter that turns with the frame rate. So you would be speeding up the shutter, and when you speed up the shutter, you need more light because you're getting less light in on each frame, which is, any of you who've shot slow motion know this, that the more you slow down the camera, the more light you're going to need, which may not make a huge difference when you're just like doubling or quadrupling. But when you're shooting like 1,000 frames a second, that's when you really need to be thinking about, whoa, did I bring enough light? Because the normal amount of light like that I have for this shoot right now would not work for shooting 1,000 frames a second. Eric does say he's on Ethernet, so maybe he does have the fastest connection. Alvar asks about second sticks. I don't know what that is. Second sticks. An old gymnast on YouTube says, yes, on set, they're called sticks. All right, let's go to question number 5 of 8. Number 5. Generally, the word pan means a movement like this, horizontally, although you hear people use it to mean all sorts of movement. Pan up, pan down. But if you were going to move the camera in this direction, what would you call it? If you were angling the camera upward or angling the camera downward. Draw Blank also points out that Eric has the greatest advantage, or at least a better advantage than Draw Blank on Twitch, because Draw Blank is in a different country. What country are you in? Or a different continent, actually, yeah. Let's see. Ooh, Hank-O-Matic for the win on this one. Hank-O-Matic says tilt, followed by many people saying tilt. So finally someone broke the reign of Eric Picardzada on Twitch. Thank you, Hank, for saying tilt. Yeah, this is just like a pet peeve of mine I had to throw in here. I know like non-film people maybe don't know this, but like this is a pan, this is a tilt, and generally I believe a pan and a tilt are referring to movements that are locked on sticks or a tripod. Once you are moving, now it's a dolly move or a crane shot or a tracking shot. There's different words you can use to describe it. But it always bothers me when someone says like, could you just pan up or like pan down the hall or like, I don't know. It really shouldn't bother me because clearly they just mean move the camera, and like you can be smart enough to figure out what they mean. I don't know if it bothers anyone else like that. Yeah, Alvar on YouTube says, to a client, everything is a pan. But even like, I mean, I think I've had bosses in television news that would use that phrase. And ultimately, like, no communication has fallen apart there. It's really fine when someone says, like, pan up. Yeah, unless you want me to, like, turn the camera this way. Eric does say he missed the second half of the last question, that maybe that's why he and Hank says he unplugged Eric's Ethernet to win that one. I love that they're essentially communicating with each other right now. Let me pull up the feed because they actually shouldn't even be able to see each other. Oh, I'm not on that. Like Hank is on YouTube and Eric is on Twitch. I can see both of them, but it sounds like they're like volleying back and forth here. I should just leave the chat up here as I can't do that the way that I have this set up. I'll have to go back to my main feed here. Okay. Our next question, number 6. What does it mean to stop down? Maybe now's when I should cut over to my cut back to my split screen. Stop down. Eric says stop down means going lower on the f-stop. That's correct. I want to hear specifically what's like one stop down. Everyone's saying smaller iris, which is correct. But I want to know, like, what is the actual exposure reduction of one stop? In layman's terms, what is happening if you stop down one stop? We're getting lots of different answers here. I see lower the light from F4 to F8. One stop is square root of 2 down. It's not quite. Twice the light is close. Twitch has a 2-second advantage over YouTube. Close the aperture by 1, or half the white, half the exposure. I'll take that from Rhett. Yeah, have the exposure. That's the important thing. That's what I was looking for. Sorry for not wording that very well. Lots of great engagement on that one. But I'm going to give that one to Rhett for saying specifically, close the aperture by 1, have, even though you said the white, have the exposure. I'll accept that. Maybe if Fade to Unforgiven wants to take credit too, that was great. Yeah, I think sometimes people, I think, lose sight of what a stop actually is. We talk a lot about stops and the f-stop scale, and hopefully if you've memorized the f-stop scale, then you know what one stop to the next is. Like I know that F14 to F2 is a single stop, and F2 to F2.8 is a single stop, and F2.8 to 4 is a single stop, and that means each time it's lowering the exposure by half, or cutting the light in half. Which if you forget that that's what it means, it's kind of unhelpful to like even know what the f-stop scale is. But it means if I'm shooting an f2.8 and I decide to switch to f4, I've stopped down one stop, and now my lights need to be twice as bright. So helpful to remember that. And I remember I saw this comment on I have a YouTube video about ND filters. And if you don't understand stops, then ND filters are useless. Like, what does a 3-stop filter do for me? Well, it cuts your light into an eighth, because it's one stop, which is half the light, another stop, which is half of that light, so now we're down to a quarter, and then another stop, the third stop, brings you down to 1/8 of the light. So that's helpful to understand that. Let's see. Fade to Unforgiven says, and when you up the stops enough, then you have northern exposure. Does anyone remember that TV show? Okay. Let's do our last couple questions here, and then we'll play around with the GH5 live streaming. Question number 7 of 8. What is a C47 on set? You've gotten your stinger, your extension cord, and now you need some C47s. What are those? The Filmmakers Workshop on YouTube says, great show. Oh, talking about... for a second, I was like, thank you so much. You're talking about northern exposure. A clothespin, says Alvar on YouTube, getting in just before Eric, who says a C47 is a clothespin to hold gels and modifiers. Nice job, Alvar. A clothespin, C47, another one of those terms that's like, okay, now you're just trolling us filmmakers. Like, how long does it take to say the word clothespin? I guess you have to call it a C47. And then our final question. Well, this one's fun. I'm wondering, well, I think it's fun. You tell me if it's fun. In movies, what is non-diegetic sound? Non-diegetic sound. Diegetic, the word coming from diegesis. Diegesis means story, I think, in Latin. I don't know. This is something I learned in film school. Diegesis. The Filmmakers Workshop says added sound. Non-diegetic sound is added sound. That is correct. This is a good answer from Kevin Walls. Sound that exists outside the world of the film. Yeah. I would describe it as sound that the characters can't hear. Right? It is from outside the world of the film. Eric says, I believe that sound that isn't in existence to the world. Things like music. Yeah, when you add music on top of a movie, it's non-diegetic sound. Although you often see non-diegetic sound begin as non-diegetic sound, or presumably non-diegetic sound, and then it becomes diegetic sound. Like, you hear the song, you're going through the town, drone shots, it's all cool, and then you land in someone's car and you realize they're hearing that song on the radio. Then it becomes diegetic sound. I just think that's an interesting phrase. I'm not sure it's even something that's that important of a concept, because like clearly we all intrinsically understand that. Maybe it would have been more important. Some of these things, you think about like jump cuts or non-diegetic sound. These things all had to be established in early film history. You know, the first films, you know, the first time you play music on top of it, actually, I bet audiences at that time were pretty used to music on top of their films because their films were silent. And so they understood that they were non-diegetic. But the moment you could start having sound in a film, and now do we know, is the audience, are the characters hearing it or not? This would be something for audiences to navigate. Same with like a jump cut. For a long time, cuts meant like no time is passing. But to see like a jump cut, like just to cut right to another time and place, was jarring, and I believe came out of the French New Wave films. But audiences weren't used to that. Like usually in a classical Hollywood film, you would dissolve to show that time is passing and you could go somewhere else, that the scene is over and now we're going somewhere else. But now it's like completely commonplace to just cut out time. And, even within a scene, like let's just assume 1 minute has passed. No big deal. Audiences understand that. So I'm not even sure how much it's important to talk about like diegesis and non-diegetic sound in film school now, because like I think we all get it. Yeah, and a lot of people pointing out the music, but of course it could be other things besides music. It could be voiceover, it could be sound effects that the audiences don't hear. Yeah, Old Gymnast says narration also. Yeah, Eric says musicals in a weird sense too. Like, yeah, it kind of depends on the musical. Like, do they hear the music or not? Are they just singing without the orchestra? The orchestra's not there generally. Rhett Thompson has to get out of here. Good to see you, Rhett. Great stream. Thank you. And now Mark Cordero says, I'm so ready for Jeopardy if the category is movie production terms for 100. Yeah, that's essentially what we've just done here today. I think that Eric Fakardzada on Twitch 100% won that round. I think he got 6 or 7 out of those. I think I gave one to Rhett. I can't remember who else. I think Alvar got one. Yeah, I mean, we spread it around a little bit, but Eric got the lion's share. So congratulations, Eric, on being such a great film student with a fast internet connection, living in the same continent as me. A lot of disclaimers there. Let's see. Draw Blank on Twitch says, sometimes there are songs that start out as part of a scene, but then as the scene ends, transition out of the universe of the scene. Yeah. Which I love that. I love playing around with that. Also, because I just love the effect. The effect is so easy to do, to like have a music track sitting on top of your film, and then just you can just add like a telephone sound effect in your editor to make it sound tinny and canny, and now it sounds like it's inside a car, or you add or some reverb to it, and suddenly it sounds like it's in the space that your characters are in. It's such an easy effect to play around with in the edit. That's real fun. Oh yeah. Alvar says the chat is frozen on my screen. It is, because it's not showing my latest messages down here. All right, so I want to show you this little streaming setup that I have with the GH5 Mark II. And let me see the best way to do this here. So let me switch to, let me pop this camera over here. So I want to show you an interesting thing with the GH5 Mark II. Let me cut to this camera. This focus right here. And I can also cut to, I think I can cut to this feed as well. Let's see. Where is this one? Oh, here we go. Yeah. I'll cut full screen to this in a moment. But the GH5 Mark II has this live streaming capability built in that I wasn't sure. I mean, I definitely don't need it, but I was curious to try it. And let's see, where do they hide it? It's in here, Wi-Fi. So my camera is connected to Wi-Fi right now. You can tell because it has this little blue light underneath the record button. So I've connected to my Wi-Fi, and then if I go to my Wi-Fi setup here to streaming setup, I have the streaming function turned on. Okay. And then when you turn it on, this is really interesting. When you push the record button, instead of recording, it puts a blue line around the screen. Let me cut to this. Let's see. Yeah, so now you're seeing this blue line around the screen. That shows that it's like ready to stream. And real quick, I want to show you a video Let's see if I can do this. I think I can do this on my main feed here. I'm going to try to show you a video from my laptop. Let's see if this will work. So I knew that I could send this camera's feed straight to an RTMP server. Like I could send this straight to Twitch or to Restream or to Facebook or YouTube or anywhere. But like that doesn't appeal to me, the idea of just, I have this like cool setup. I want to do it through OBS. So I don't want to just send it straight from here. Although I suppose I could go out into the field somewhere. I've seen Sean Robinson at Lumix do that. He lives in Austin and he's taken his GH5 Mark II out into the world. You can watch these streams and he's just connected his camera to his phone as a hotspot and then streamed right to YouTube. And it seemed to work really well. So I was wondering though, can I just somehow stream it into OBS? And it's not as easy as just that. OBS can accept an RTMP signal, but it's not an RTMP server itself. And this can send to an RTMP server, but there needs to be some intermediary there. And I thought about using a cloud service, but then you can think like, well, how much delay would there be? So the goal was to get an RTMP server running on my computer. And it actually wasn't that hard. Nick helped me do it. And let me see if I can just play this video for you. I may need to turn on the sound. Let's see, how do I get that sound? Oh, it's probably in here. Yeah.
HDMI audio.
Sound. Let's try this now. Yeah.
HDMI audio.
So the nice thing about doing this in Docker as opposed to
now.
installing it just
HDMI
on your
audio.
computer is that like you can't break
the nice
it.
thing about
If
doing
that
this
makes
in
sense.
Docker
Right?
as
Like
opposed to
it's
installing
totally
it
independent.
on
It's got
your
all
computer.
I don't know, you're hearing everything twice.
Let's open up a terminal section.
Okay. It seems like that did not work. Oh, actually, did not work.
So I guess
So it's
now
already done.
it's done. Yeah.
Oh, actually, should we check? Oh, now it did not work.
Oh, I
So,
know it's
guess
not
we're
working.
already
Yeah.
done.
Wait, it's done. Yeah.
Oh, actually. Okay, sorry about that. I realized, of course, you're hearing like multiple things. I think I have like the stream running on this laptop too. Here, let me try this one more time without. I'll just turn off the sound on these live streams that may be going. Okay, let's see this one more time. No, I can hear myself still. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna work. Sorry. Here, but now I'll actually show you the effect. So Nick showed me how to run this thing called Nginx. And I'm running it inside Docker, which I was not familiar with how these things work. But now I am running an RTMP server on my computer, and I should be able to send right to it. So let's see if this works. Okay, you can still hear me. Yep. And then here's our... Oh, there it is. Yeah. The cool thing, though, is because I have it coming in through HDMI on the bottom and RTMP on the top, we can see how much this delay is. And it works out to be like 2 seconds, it looks like. It does the job, but then the question is like, why would I use this when I also just have, like a, here, let me cut to this camera. Like I have this camera here with an HDMI transmitter on top, the Cosmos C1 that I'm playing around with, which is sending the signal over here to my mixer. Like if I can just send it through HDMI and there's almost no latency or very little latency, then what would I do with a 2 second delay here? There it is. But it is kind of interesting and just like a cool, I just wanted to see if I could do it. It's cool that it works. So let's see if anyone has any thoughts on this RTMP thing. So Drawblank was saying I was delayed, and Eric is wondering if I really am. Now, I know that what was happening is I think I was like, I was introducing a loop. Yeah, Alvar on YouTube says that you've introduced a infinite feedback loop. I think you were hearing my own stream coming through my HDMI. It was not ideal. Let me make sure that thing is turned off. I'm realizing. Yeah, the HDMI audio is turned off. I need to work on my audio setup here in OBS. It's a little bit too confusing. All the different feeds I have coming in. I appreciate the live feedback though from Eric and from Drawblank, especially because I have been messing with things and doing some weird loops. So all feedback about my audio sync is welcome. Living with MS also has a really good comment. I remember learning this in film school, that MOS is a weird phrase that means like silent, which doesn't make any sense because it means without sound. And what I've been told, and I think he's saying the same thing, that it's German for "mit ohne Sound" or something like that. That it was like a German acronym. I could have that wrong, but MOS does mean that. It means no sound. Unknown Data wants to know, do you have any instructions on setting up an RTMP server with Nginx? I don't know. I didn't know it could do that. It was harder. Like, I wouldn't be able to explain it because I didn't know what I was doing. Nick knows how to do it. I should encourage him to make a tutorial on making your own RTMP server. But I suppose there's a few good use cases. Like, one of them would be, instead of paying a service like Restream to send your feed out to Twitch, to YouTube at the same time, I could, just using my own RTMP server on my computer, I could set it up to send it to all these places. Although even that just seems like a little bit too technical for me. And on QQ on YouTube says, I was trying to get something like that to work with a GoPro Hero 10 a few days ago. And Maradi TV 20, who's just joining us, wants to know, what is the name of this mixer that I'm using? This is the Feel World L2 Plus that I was testing out at the beginning of this episode. Greetings from Barcelona, Spain, says Juan Carlos Vieira. And let's see, right now I should turn off this. Let's turn off the stream. So this camera is still streaming. Let's look at it one more time on here. Looks like, yeah, it kind of comes and goes. It's still working. Just kind of delayed. But it's interesting to know that it can do that. So right now, all I have to do is just hit the record button and it will stop streaming. But you could do this, the same way that I've just streamed to my own RTMP server to get it into OBS, which is a little bit complicated way to do that when I have all these other options, HDMI and stuff. In fact, it's kind of funny that I was streaming and simultaneously showing you its feed. Or actually, we switched away from it, but I have its HDMI feed right here. Although this was kind of cool that I could simultaneously show you a clean output and I can show you the info on screen at the same time. I kind of love looking at the info on screen, especially in a filmmaking podcast. Like, you can see what my settings are on this camera. Kind of cool that we could do both at the same time. That's one use case for it. Let's see. Green Mountain Access Television points out that RTMP can be used as a back channel secondary redundancy feed or none real-time monitor for others on production. Yeah, I could be using this to send a signal out to somewhere else that doesn't go live. There's a lot of interesting things I could do with it. And I thought it was fun just to have one that's like set up locally on my computer that's just accessible on my network. Luke Westwood just joined the stream. Welcome on YouTube. Sad that he missed the start. That's okay. Well, I'm going to try to do a bunch of these in the coming weeks. Try to get more experience. One of the reasons I'm doing this is like, there were times in the past that I did Wirecast streams on YouTube, and I generally had a lot of fun doing those and understood the software well. And it's just in the last few years, I had never tried OBS. It's funny that like we're this deep into the pandemic and doing all these Zoom meetings and stuff, and I'm only now figuring out OBS and how powerful it is. Like I had played around with it as a virtual camera. Pretty much I was just using it as a virtual camera output. Like bring in my nice camera, maybe add one special effect like this, and then output it as a virtual camera to Zoom. Cool that I could do that. But this is the first time I'm really using it to do a broadcast, which is fun. And I'm trying to flex those muscles a little bit more and just gain some more experience so that I'm more confident with OBS and what it's capable of. So I mean, you all are part of it. Thank you. If you weren't here, this would be completely worthless. So thank you for coming and helping me practice this. Draw Blank says, wow, getting the L2 Pro from B&H means that I'll have to pay $206 worth of shipping. Oh no, where are you? I feel like you told me, Draw Blank. Although he says that is express shipping. And for anyone who's in the US, if you do a lot of B&H shopping like I do, make sure that you get the Paybu card. Although I think I think B&H is in the process of switching banks. So I don't know how easy it is to get a Paybu card right now. But the Paybu card is a card that lets you eliminate sales tax. So like if you're in New York, and I think it's 8% sales tax, that's a pretty hefty discount off of things you buy from B&H. So if you're buying a lot of filmmaking equipment. Lesson Hacker has a question. If there's an external mic attached to the sound and it moves out of sync when it's broadcasting, if so, is there a way of offsetting the sound on the device? On the device, no, but I'll show you two ways that I offset sound. And we solved this problem thanks to all of you in the last live stream. My video was coming in after my audio. And so I went into the settings here. I'll just point my camera at the screen. And let's see. Yeah, here we go. How close can I get here? My mic is kind of in the way. Let me move it. Okay. So, I mean, it's funny. I could do a screen capture, but this is more fun. So, on the XLR mic, you can click on... Oh, I'm really dumb. This is so funny what I'm doing right now. I'm moving my mouse on the screen, and I'm actually trying to click the gear that you all are seeing, which is not a clickable gear. It's in the video. I need to go down. I'm like clicking in the wrong place. Oh yeah, I mean, you could probably see it. My mouse was like up here because I was trying to like click on what you guys are seeing. I need to click down here and click on Advanced Audio Properties. And right here, you can change the delay of the XLR mic. And so I shifted this to 300 milliseconds, and that happened to be the right amount, and it fixed it. But I since decided there's a better way for me to do this. It's a more complicated way, but I'll show you what I have going on here. I have audio hijack here, and I guess you can see all of it right here. So I have my input audio coming in. I can even see way over here on the left side, you can see there's just one channel, which makes sense because it's just on the left channel coming in. So I have it duplicating channels. So essentially, in Audio Hijack, I've set up a chain of like things I want to happen to the audio before it comes over to OBS. So we're duplicating the left channel. I'm adding a compressor and a limiter, and then I'm syncing it because I know I have that sync problem of 300 milliseconds. And the reason I'm doing it here in Audio Hijack is because I realized it was actually not just a problem in the stream. A lot of people thought maybe maybe it was the feel world that was introducing all of this latency, and it really wasn't. I did some testing and realized, oh, it wasn't this, it wasn't the Atomos I was sending it to. Maybe those were adding a few milliseconds of delay, but it wasn't the bulk of it. What was doing it, I think, is just the camera out to the cam link directly was causing that delay. So I realized I've been having this delay all the time everywhere, not just in OBS, but in like my Zoom calls that I'm using the cam links. Here are the cam links, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I realized I needed to correct this everywhere. So by doing this in Audio Hijack, correcting the sync problem, now when I go out, I can send this to Zoom too, and it works. And then I have a new meter to tell me how it's looking. I'm recording the audio here, and then I'm sending it. I'm actually sending it to an app called Loopback, which is then getting it to OBS for me. So OBS sees my microphone as, let's see, if I go to advanced audio properties, or where is it exactly? It's right here. Oh yeah, it's hard to see, but right in this little menu, it's saying that the mic is actually called Hijack to OBS, which is this like this virtual device I've created. But I can also use that as my mic for other things as well, for Zoom or for things like that. So I'm correcting that audio delay in Audio Hijack and then not worrying about the audio delay in OBS. So yeah, next I need to talk about these cam links and why I'm using them, but let me see what other questions you all have brought up. Yeah, it's good to know, to answer your question, Lesson Hacker, that even if you can't do it in the device, the fact that you can adjust the delay in OBS or in third-party software like Audio Hijack, there's a lot of ways to solve the problem. Let's see. Yeah, Old Gymnast says they're ending the pay boost soon. One of my friends was telling me this. I got the email too, but you should read it carefully. I don't think they're getting rid of, I'm talking about B&H and their credit card that eliminates sales tax. I don't think they're getting rid of the program. I think B&H is just not going to be using Synchrony Bank anymore, which is the issuer of the card, the person that you actually pay the credit card bill to at the end of the day. And they were saying, I think it was going to be around this time this month. It was like mid-January they were going to make the switch. So check your email inboxes. Maybe B&H will tell us what the new deal is. But I think all they're doing is moving banks. Because, yeah, I don't think they're getting rid of the program. Because it's a great program. And for anyone who doesn't use it currently, you should look up Payboo. It's a weird name. Payboo. Luke Westwood says, I'm giving a video workshop to a PR agency soon on Zoom setups and would love to share your videos. Would that be okay? Oh, yeah. You should definitely point to this or clip this or whatever you want to do. If you want to download this and edit out a segment to show, or even just, I mean, if you want to steal screenshots from my shoot and put them in your PowerPoint or something, you're welcome to, Luke. Also, if you happen to be giving the video workshop over Zoom, it'd be fun to like do some special effects in OBS, even like a simple one. Even just like me throwing this little graphic of my name like in a Zoom meeting is kind of fun because it's like, hey, I'm doing something that you can't do on your webcam. Adrian Ruscon says that you and Nick should turn the podcast into video game live streams. That would be interesting. I also played around with today. I have a little scene here that I've set up, which I call Zoom Call, because I tested out bringing in audio from Zoom. That was like, bringing the video from Zoom was easy. Bringing the audio from Zoom required another virtual device. But I think I have the capability. So if someone... maybe next time, I don't know if I'm prepared to do it right now, but maybe next live stream I'll bring in a Zoom special guest. Let's see. Yeah, Alvar and Old Gymnast are talking about, could you... Yeah, so this mixer that we're talking about, the Feel World L2 Plus, it doesn't look like it can be powered off of USB. It does have this little USB port on the side, but that's just for outputting the webcam shot. But yeah, you could figure out a way. It has a DC power plug. I'm sure there's some way to run this off battery if you wanted to. It does also have like a little quarter-inch thing on the side, which is interesting. You could mount this onto something if you needed it that way. And yeah, it's just powered through it's just a regular power plug that goes into the wall. So the next thing I want to talk about is these multiple cam links that I'm using. And I like the cam link. I'm sure many of you, I'd love to know what HDMI capture devices any of you are using. I was thinking about getting 2 of them. I mean, pretty much to do something like this right now. I suppose I could do picture-in-picture effects in this mixer, but I like that for the versatility in OBS and being able to do like split screens and different kind of shots and change up the shots like this. I liked the idea that I had 2 different camera feeds coming into the computer. But I had heard, I mean, if you Google it, Elgato's website, they say like, you might not be able to put 2 cam links on one computer because you can't necessarily run them off the same USB, the same root, USB root. Is that the right phraseology? So I looked at my system information on the iMac Pro that I'm working with here, and it said it only had 1 root. I feel like I'm getting this phrasing wrong. Let me see. About this Mac. Let's see. If I go to my USB... Oh, bus. That's what I'm looking for. Bus. USB bus. The Elgato was saying if you run 2 Elgato cam links off of a single USB bus, that you might have problems. And I'm wondering, maybe it's because they are 4K capable devices. Maybe it's if you run both of them with a 4K signal, you won't be able to do it. But I thought about the fact that I have 1 USB 3 bus on the computer, but then I also have all the Thunderbolt ports, which are USB-C shaped, but they are slightly different because they're Thunderbolt, but they support USB-C. And I thought, well, if I use a USB-C adapter to get one of these cam links in, if I have one of them on the USB bus and one of them on the Thunderbolt bus, I don't know. I just thought if they're on different devices, maybe I can make them both work. So I plugged them both in that way, works just fine. I was able to do things like, I mean, I should be able to, like, can I do this live? Like, change my, just change this to be the same cam link? Or no, that doesn't work. That's just the same source shot. But yeah, I can, I mean, right now I have both cam links going, 2 different feeds coming in. One of them is the mixer that has all these different sources on it. But it worked just fine. And so then I tested out, can it also go into 2 USB ports, to just 2 USB-A ports? And that seemed to work too. So I don't know if any of you have experience using multiple cam links. Here's my multiple cam links here. But they're both plugged in the same computer. It seems like if I plug in via USB together, they both work. Or if I plug in via Thunderbolt and USB, they both work. That's what I'm doing right now is Thunderbolt and USB, just hoping that that's going to be less problematic. But I wonder, yeah, if you were sending like a full bandwidth 4K video in, maybe it wouldn't be able to support both on the same USB bus. So let's see. Drawblank says they're using the Elgato 4K 60 Pro Mark II, which I believe that's the actual like capture card that goes inside your computer. It's not USB. Alvar says, guess you could use the mounting hole to have the mixer rigged onto your tripod. Yeah, you could do this out in the field with that little tripod mount on the side of the field world. B Squad Leader says, I have the $20 4K 60 USB HDMI capture that works fine. Oh, so not even Elgato, just some cheap one that seems to work well. That's good to know. Eric has the Pango HDMI grabber, though now he also has the ATEM Mini Pro, which could be a more exciting device to use, perhaps. What's funny now, I realize like now I have a lot of devices that can do, you know, they can solve this problem. You don't necessarily need a cam link for HDMI. Like this mixer has it. I talked about it on the last stream that this HDMI transmitter that I'm using today can be a webcam. So you could plug in directly from this through USB-C into the computer. So I could just be streaming my wireless signal, my wireless HDMI signal to my computer. The Lumix cameras you can plug in through USB and make it a webcam. So there's lots of ways to do this. I probably have 4 different pieces of technology here right now that could all get my signal into the computer. But I like doing it through HDMI the most because it gives me the most flexibility. And that's why I kind of needed 2 of them. I don't know if I personally need 2 for myself, but I think for some of the things I'm trying to do for work, I might need 2. So one, I was just kind of wondering if it would even work. Like, I wonder, I can maybe not on all devices. If you're running a MacBook Air, or wonder if you can plug in two of these at the same time. Let's see what other experience you guys have. Unknown Data has the cam link and would love to upgrade eventually to the PCI input card. That I think that's the one that B Squad that Drawblink is talking about, the Elgato 4K60 Pro Mark II. And Alvar's wondering if I have any experience with the ATEM minis. I don't. Friends of mine have used them, and many of you have ATEM mini experiences, the Blackmagic device, but I haven't. So I can't say whether I prefer the Feel World to the ATEM. And I'm not picky. If you've watched review videos that I've made, it's like, if it does the job, great. I mean, this thing works. I like that it has the monitors built in, which is pretty cool. So actually on my last stream, I had my Atomos Shogun like sitting off to the side so I could see my feed. And I realized that's just completely redundant here because I can see everything on this screen that I need to see. Scott Edwards Media wants to know if you can do Chroma Key on it. Earlier, we tried to open up the Chroma Key settings, and they look really complicated on this little device. It's not a great user interface to play around with the Chroma Key. So yes, you can. I just don't even know how to do it myself. I also mentioned that this can hook up to the computer through the USB, and you can operate it through some third-party software. So maybe it's possible to set up the Chroma Key there. Simon Larson says, I've experienced that Elgato products are a bit unstable. I use an AJA Kona 1 and a couple different Blackmagic cards to accomplish this kind of stuff. Eric says the annoying things about the ATEM Mini is there isn't an on-off switch. So once it's plugged in, it's always on, so the lights on the device are always on. So not great for your bedroom, as he points out. Thank you for all the great comments today. There's one more thing. I mean, I'll stick around as long as there's questions today. But there's one thing I wanted to talk about and get your input on, and also see if we can answer a question for someone I encountered on Reddit that I didn't look like he was getting a lot of answers. Let's see. I think I have this question here. This was something I saw on Reddit today. This is someone who uses the GH5 and says pretty much he's trying to do this. He's trying to shoot this shot, looking at a computer with a camera over the computer, capturing the shot. That's my understanding. And saying that the space is very limited. So yeah, I'll show you my space. It's also very limited. This person has an ultra wide screen and has been playing around with where do you put a camera behind a big screen, especially when you got a big wall back there. A tripod is not an option in this person's case. So looking for something that can be permanently attached to the back of the screen, but that allows to take the camera on and off from time to time to replace batteries and all that stuff. And so I feel like I'm kind of an expert at this. I want to hear what all of you do for this kind of setup. But I'll show you what I'm doing and what I'd like to be doing in the future. And hopefully this inspires this person on Reddit and maybe helps some of you out. So let me go to this shot here and go to this camera. I guess this might be a good time for me to finally turn off my info display. Okay. So now you can just get a clean feed here. So I have my GH5 behind my computer. And actually, the smartest thing I did recently was I had been using my GH5S back here, but I decided to finally switch to this GH5 Mark II that Panasonic gave me. And it's a smarter camera to leave behind the computer because it can be powered through USB-C. So this camera has been plugged in this whole time, and it's still... One weird thing about this is you do have to keep a battery inside the camera, but it looks like it's not touched the battery this whole time. We've been broadcasting for an hour and a half, and the battery is still full. Whereas like this camera that's up top on this boom up here, half its battery is diminished right now. So I like that it's plugged in via USB-C, and I have it on this little tiny Peak Design tripod. And I'm kind of wondering if this person on Reddit who says they don't have enough room, if they might have enough room to do this weird setup, where like I kind of have one of the Peak Design legs out in its like longest setup behind the monitor, and then these two on the side just being short, and then I'm letting the neck do most of the work to get this thing over the camera. And it's still pretty tight back there, but it fits. So I wonder if you could do something like that, or here's another option for you. You also could do something like a boom on top. But the thing I really want to do in the future that I might do is I'm thinking about what if I put kind of like rigged up something on the ceiling. Actually, I can't rig up anything on this. This thing I'm pointing to right now is like a vent, like a ductwork inside the wall. So I'm thinking about attaching something to the studs up here, and maybe attaching something to the studs on this wall, and just putting like a bunch of what are these little things? Like, oh yeah, they're called baby pins. I'm thinking about having like a bunch of baby pins attached to the wall, and then you could mount a light like right on the wall, like just on this stud that's sitting on the wall. And I'm thinking about what if I could just do the same thing with the camera. Like if there was just something like here sticking out of the wall, I could figure out a way to just mount a ball head on there. So it'd be kind of cool to have kind of like a rack up here on the ceiling where I could like just, you know, this camera, instead of being on a boom, what if it was just hanging straight down from the ceiling? And this light over here, what if I didn't need this light stand, but this thing was just mounted to the wall and then no more light stand? And then that camera, I wouldn't need the tripod anymore and it could just be on the wall. So I wonder if that's some options for him or anyone else who's looking to do this kind of stuff. But I'm curious what you all do to get your nice cameras behind the computer. If anyone uses a boom or use a tripod back there, or you've like glued it to the wall or something. Let's see what people are saying. Let's see. Yeah, so Eric says a ball head tripod on top of the mount to oh wait, I missed the first part. Get a multi-mount or desk clamp mount. Yeah, one of those things that clamps onto your desk and it's like to hold a microphone or something. Yeah, that would certainly take up less. It would have less of a footprint of this tripod. That's the main problem with this setup here, is that it does take up some space on the desk. And then putting a ball head tripod on it. And actually, like, that's one thing that's one thing I love about this Peak design, is that it just has such a low profile ball head that's gonna be hard to replicate. Like if I'm gonna do this idea of having like baby pins sticking out of the wall, I just feel like it's gonna be a really chunky set of filmmaking tools to get from this. You know, there's gonna be a ball head on top. I just want something really low profile. So we'll see what I can accomplish there. Let's see what else you all are saying. Some devices let you use dummy batteries instead of actual batteries, says Alvar on YouTube. So you could just run it off wall power. And then Eric has actually linked me to an Elgato. Oh, Elgato makes a product. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, let's just zoom in here. Or just bring the camera close. This is the Elgato Master Mount L. That's actually pretty cool. It is very low profile and has a ball head on top. It's $50. That's interesting. I like that idea. And what other ideas did you all have? Alvar says you could also get some of those bendy mic arms that lock and have it on your desk with a camera, so you can move it around, lock it in place, take up pretty much no space at all. Old Gymnast says, just build a rigging grid. Yeah, like I should just put a grid, a lighting grid on my ceiling. Although I feel like I haven't, in my Googling, I haven't seen great like at home setups for that. But I've thought about just like getting in like a board of wood, screwing it to the, like 3 studs, and then it would have these mounted baby pins. There's these little baby pins you can buy that like screw onto a wall, and they have 4 screws, and it would just be like, I could put those on the board of wood. And I think it would be relatively low profile. Like I don't want like a bunch of big long telescoping arms hanging off the wall, but when you're not using it, it would just be like this little tiny pin. Let's see. Alvar says, I'd recommend using something like a very pole and then rigging stuff off of that so it's semi-permanent, doesn't do any damage. I'll have to look up that. Let's see. I'll look up very pole. I've never heard of this. Very pole. Okay. And like one of the things that showed up is, well, here's like the Impact Deluxe variable support system. They just look like sticks, but like another thing I saw here was like some sort of rail system on a ceiling. Yeah. Brandon J, who's just joined us on YouTube, wants to know what software I'm using right now. I'm using OBS to do this stream, which has allowed me to do some stuff like this, where I've made like a little picture-in-picture thing, or I can do it as a split screen, which is fun. Casa de los Perros Studio jokes that I probably don't want to use thumbtacks and dental floss to mount all this stuff on my ceiling. Simon Larson uses a huge magic arm clamped to the desk. Yeah, sounds like a lot of people do that kind of thing. Hankomatic has a more general question. Do you have any current fun video projects that you are not doing for pay? Yeah, I have a video project that I shot with Peter about his 3rd birthday that I'd like to finish up and share with all of you. I've just been struggling to find time to do it. And then I also have a piece, I mean, maybe you've seen this on the podcast, where I shot my friend Matt doing the Ironman competition in Wisconsin. So that's just like a really visually fun piece to edit because it has drone shots and action and running and biking and all that and swimming. But I also just need to find more time to do that. Right now, it's the paid work that is taking up my time. I'm actually going to Dallas this week for a paid project. I put that out there, but I probably won't have time to see anyone if you do live in Dallas. I also don't know if I want to see lots of people. I'm trying to do this travel very safely. But yeah, I have paid stuff that's keeping me busy. And Green Mountain Access Television says goodbye, that they're off to a production. Thanks for joining us on this live stream today. And Golden Pigeon is here, wants to know, where did I get the rainbow fridge magnet? I spotted it on a TV show the other week. Oh, really? That's funny. I wonder if I have... Here, I can cut to my end screen, and then I'll cut back. It has... That's the rainbow fridge magnet he's talking about. I don't know. I got that when I was a kid. And my mom had it in a box, and one day I pulled it out and thought, oh, this is kind of a fun thing to like use as my branding, I guess. It's funny to like think that something from like my preschool is something I'm using on my website today as essentially my logo. I love that Brandon J, in all caps, seems angry that I'm just pointing my camera at the screen when like I clearly have the capability to do screen capture here. I just don't want to. I have all these cameras here. I want to use them. Any excuse to pick up the camera and point it at something is fun. So if you have anything you want to see in the general vicinity around me, let me know. In fact, we should cut to this other camera and see how wide it'll go. Oh, it's not all that wide. Move it back a little bit. Except because I use push to focus, I can't see anything. Yeah. It's hard for me to focus when I'm not behind the camera. There you go. Now you can see a side shot. Oh, you can see my window over here. This is also just a funny example of like, I imagine these cameras have the same settings. Let's see. We'll white balance this one on. some reason I can't see the white balance here. Oh, okay. It's on sun. They're on slightly different ones. Although I feel like if I set this one to sun, it's going to look even bluer. Let's see. Yeah, even bluer. This is just a funny example of like, these cameras are essentially set to the same settings. But when the light is coming from the correct direction, I look nice and golden. And over here on this shot, it's the wrong direction. Actually, I'm being lit by this blue light. That's part of it. I'll turn this thing around. I have this blue light over here that's pointing at me, and that does a lot of it. And outside, you can see all the trees. Oops. Yeah, one's warmer, as Alvar points out. I think we may be approaching the end of the stream. I should go be a parent. But before I go, let's take a look at the questions we have. Scott Edwards Media wants to know, what's the best teleprompter? Most compact, since so many of them are bulky and heavy. You know, I've used one. Let me look it up on my Amazon, see which one that I bought. I bought one for work, and it's pretty good. It's still a little bulky. I don't know. Maybe you could check it out. Let's see. Teleprompter. And now I'm trying to remember if I bought this on Amazon or on B&H. Maybe it was on B&H. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. I bought the Glide Gear iPad smartphone teleprompter V2, which sounds smaller than it is. It's actually a big teleprompter that can support an iPad, and I actually put a monitor in it, like a little 7-inch monitor or something. So it's definitely overkill for a phone. There are lots of phone teleprompters, which I kind of think are pointless because, I don't know. I just imagine a little tiny mirror that's this big in front of your camera. I guess it would work. But it just feels like you're going to have to be too close. I don't know. It just seems like, couldn't you just you're not going to be able to read it from any significant distance. And you kind of need distance on a teleprompter to sell the effect. Maybe those ones work well. Maybe you all have used teleprompters made for little cell phones. But I need one that was big enough to put a little monitor on. And so this one is it's a $200 teleprompter, and it does fold up into a little case. It's too big to be, I mean, it still is like a heavy, big thing, but at least it comes with a little carrying case. So maybe check that one out. The Glide Gear iPad smartphone teleprompter V2. That's the one I got. It works for me. Hankomatic says, be careful. I think there's a fox out that window. Yeah, there's a fox in the backyard. We saw it in the last live stream when I put a camera out in the snow. Ira Graham says, check out the PT15, which I'm imagining must be a teleprompter. And Eric also points out my DIY teleprompter. Yeah, I still actually have my DIY teleprompter in my basement right now. And that one is fine for me. The reason I got the Glide Gear one is actually because I was trying to test it out for work. It actually belongs to my office. So it's here with me now, but next time I go to New York, I'm just going to take it to the office. So I know that I have my own teleprompter here. I've just never really needed a teleprompter much. I suppose in a live broadcast setting, it could be interesting, put some scripted elements on a screen. But generally, for the kinds of videos I make, you can memorize 2 sentences. And then if you're saying more than that on camera, I guess the question is why? Why aren't you just covering it up with B-roll? So I just find I try to edit in a way and produce videos in a way that just don't require teleprompters because they're kind of annoying to deal with. You have to get the video from the computer onto the teleprompter and all this. And sometimes you have to unplug the monitor and plug it back in to get the video to come back on. I'm just thinking how do I troubleshoot this so that someone else, talent who needs to be on camera, could they control the teleprompter themselves? It's kind of difficult. You kind of want someone to be there with the camera operating it. And one of the things you have to deal with a teleprompter is you can't use, like, this lens is very wide. This is my 12 millimeter prime. And I struggle to use this lens of the teleprompter because, like, you'll see the edges of the teleprompter in the shot because, like, it does have to stick out, and there's a monitor down here and a mirror. So it doesn't work with every setup very well. And Eric says, use the teleprompter to view a Zoom call and stare directly at the people on the call. Yeah, this is like the Interatron, the device that which director uses this? I'm blanking on the name. The guy who did Grizzly Man and Fog of War, Werner Herzog. For Fog of War, they invented this device called the Interatron, which is essentially a teleprompter where you, as the interview subject, are looking into a teleprompter, and on the teleprompter, instead of words for reading, is the director's face or whoever's interviewing you, because they also have essentially a teleprompter on their side shooting them, and they can see you in the face. And so it's a good way to get those interview shots where people look right at the camera. I have yet to do. I think I've always preferred the standard interview shot where the person looks just off camera. And even if you look, this is a good, like, lesson in eye line. You can control where the person looks by just where you stand. So if you just move yourself, you could see on camera as their eye line shifts. And right now, I'm looking at, like, this edge of the lens, and I imagine you can still tell that I'm looking off camera. And now I'll look 1.5 inches that way, and I imagine it looks like I'm looking in the camera. So I find, like, right now I'm looking at the LCD on my camera. I find that I can usually stand very close to the camera and still achieve the looking off camera effect. You really don't have to be, like, way over there. In fact, you'll just get more profile. Maybe that's what you want. But I always find myself preferring, like, I want to see into their eyes. I like the looking off camera effect because it just instantly signals to the audience this person is being interviewed. And Golden Pigeon says, oh yeah, no, sorry. Hank-O-Matic points out I'm completely wrong. It wasn't Werner Herzog. Werner Herzog made Grizzly Man. Love that film. Errol Morris made Fog of War, which is where they use this. I don't know why I'm mixing up, like, my two favorite documentary directors. Sorry about that. Did anyone else catch that error? Just Hank? Thanks, Hank. Golden Pigeon wonders if I could wear an earpiece and then have pre-recorded audio pumped into my ear. Someone could be telling me what to do. Like, someone could be telling me, it's Errol Morris, what are you doing? I actually do something similar to that on the podcast. Nick and I each look a little bit this way, and then I wear an AirPod here, and he sits over here and wears an AirPod here, and we hear each other in our ears, but it's not visible on camera. Oh yeah, and Golden Pigeon, I know it's you, James. I just remember your username fondly, so that I'm calling you Golden Pigeon. Good to have you here, James. Thank you. I think that's all I have time for today, but I want to thank all of you for showing up, spending all this great time with me. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for playing the trivia game that we played. Thank you for talking about the teleprompter the mixer that I'm playing around with, talking about all the gear that we have. And I'll come up with some more fun stuff to do next time, probably next week. So thank you, and I'll see you later.